welcome to Aaron's Book Club, the fastest growing book club in the UK. This is this month's book review. This month we aim to raise people's self-awareness. We did this by reading The Source by Dr. Tara Swart. This is the science behind manifestation, and manifestation was a book that we read by Roxy Nafousi earlier on, and this was the growth and the development to that. The author, Dr. Tara Swart, has been on Diary of a CEO, and that's a really good watch or listen, depending on how you want to take that in, where there's some fantastic insights into her work and the science behind her work and how she came to the position that she's in at the moment. What I really liked was one of the first points, which was annual action boards, which are almost vision boards or dream boards, or as some people would call it. But what that is that's direction and reflection. So it's giving you action. What she mentions in the book is intent and action, because we can all have the intent to do something, or we can all set a goal, and sometimes we strive for those really big goals. But if there's no action plan behind it, a lot of the time those things are not going to come true. They're definitely not going to come true if you're just thinking about them on a consistent basis. So I thought that was fantastic. She then mentioned the self-awareness piece, which is almost turning off the autopilot, which I think we've become used to in this society. We're all on our phones all the time. We're using technology, and it's autopilot. To me, the best way to explain that would be sometimes when you're driving, you've been driving for a number of years, you know how to drive, and sometimes you go into a little state where you go 2 or 3 junctions and you don't actually remember anything. You've just been in autopilot. And what she tries to do in this book is raise self-awareness towards your goals, your intent and your actions, and just keep that at the forefront of your mind, which I think is really important. Action may initially lead to failure, but what she asks you to do is not be deterred by that, because ultimately they'll turn into lessons which will enable you to be successful in the future. But the fact that you've gone out there and overcome that barrier or got out of your comfort zone is ultimately going to allow you to have a lesson that you'll take forward with you on your journey. So I thought that was a great point. One of the things she mentioned as well is about the barriers that we set as a community, as a society. She referenced Roger Bannister, who was the first man to run a 4-minute mile. Before Roger, nobody thought it was possible, so therefore they wasn't even attempting to go and achieve that feat. However, and that had been for probably over 100 years, no one had got to that mark and no one was training for it. Roger trained, he fought outside the norm. He set an intention, he went and put the action in place, and he managed to get a 4-minute mile. Now, bearing in mind that for 100 years, no one had completed that before, in the 6 months following Roger hitting a 4-minute mile, I think it was 37 people did the same feat across the world, which just shows that as soon as somebody breaks that barrier, people believe it's achievable, and then they go and strive for it. So ultimately what that tells us is that it's all about mindset and motivation and your determination to go and achieve those kinds of things. One of the great reflection points in the book, and something that I'll move forward with throughout my life, is understanding how happiness and confidence feels. And I've asked this question to a lot of people within the book club lately, because it's important to understand what happiness feels like in the moment. Sometimes that's what we're striving for. They're the words that people will look for on the vision boards. They'll say happiness, peace, authenticity, impact, all those kind of words. But we have to actually understand how those feel and how confidence feels, and then realize how we got to that stage, which will allow us to then plan for our future happiness and confidence. Obviously, Dr. Tara Swart is a doctor, and she focuses heavily on the brain in this book, because she believes that if you can think it, then you can achieve it ultimately. But there was an outstanding statistic that said that the brain function takes up 20% of the body, but it actually requires 30% of the bodily function to function, which I think is amazing, and that's things such as hydration, etc. So it's important that we are fueling ourselves in the right way to continue to grow. She then went into talking about the agile brain and the 6 different dimensions of the brain, which are emotional intelligence, interoception, which is conscious awareness, a gut instinct, motivation, logic, and creativity. And what that led me to think about is, well, if I was scoring myself between 1 and 5, how would I score myself in those particular areas? And what would I say was my weakness and therefore potentially an area to improve? And that was the focus and the topic of the book club this month, to ask people where they thought they were strong in these 6 areas and where they thought they were weak, and just to bring again that awareness of areas to improve or areas to focus on with intent and action, which I'm going to keep going back to. She finished on a brilliant quote, which says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." I'll say that again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And I thought that was really, really powerful, because again, it's about bringing that awareness into what you want to achieve, the person that you want to be, and the qualities that you have, or the qualities that you're going to pursue. Yeah, fantastic read. I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. The group absolutely loved it. As I said, we was building on that manifestation book that we read earlier on in the month. The community's growing. People are recruiting and bringing friends and family into the group, so that's absolutely fine. Subscribe to this channel so we can keep you up to date with future events, as we've got some really exciting news about the growth and expansion of the ABC brand.